make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door.
Yeah.
Oh, hi everyone. We're here live on Friday. Happy Friday, and I'm here with Rachel Greco, author extraordinaire. Everyone's still clapping in my ears. We have to. Okay, it's a huge studio audience that we have here clapping. Rachel, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for letting me on.
Yes, of course. I first have to start with something. I'm going to put up a little graphic that you may or may not be able to see because we need to talk about this post that you just put up yesterday about the secret project that's happening.
Well, it's secret. I haven't even told my newsletter subscribers yet, so I'm not sure how much I can say.
Oh, wait, this is a live show, Rachel. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But, so I am one of those people that I was like zooming in on all your computer screen. Was that all? And looking at your notebook and like, is it on there? Are there clues on here?
I'm actually trying to remember on the picture if it was on the screen or not. It might have been.
I don't know.
Actually. But yeah, it's a fun project it's not my main focus right now. My main focus is a standalone sci-fi novel about thought-drinking vampires.
Of course.
So that's my main focus, but I was in between edits because if I work on one project too long, I just want to kill everyone in the story. And I'm like, this is terrible. So I took a break to work on the secret project, which I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And so now I'm kind of like forcing myself to have the guts and courage to step out there and
it's going to be a big 2025 for you.
Hopefully. I don't know. I'm hoping 2025, but it might be 2026 knowing how slow I am editing fiction. But I'm hoping it'll probably end up being a Kickstarter. Okay. Which I've never done before. So it's a huge learning curve.
Well, and like you said, everybody can find out on your newsletter. So how do people sign up for that?
Yes. So you can go to rachelagreco.com and there are ways to sign up there. Or you can go to my Instagram, Rachel A. Greco author, and sign up there as well. And you get a free short story when you sign up.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I love that. How you were saying that by the time you're done with a project, you're over it.
Yeah.
It's time to move on. How long does it usually take you to finish a book?
A while. So like the first draft to write, well, I haven't actually written a first draft in a while because I've had like pieces of it and then I've like added to it or I've stopped to work on other projects, but it usually takes just 6 months to write the whole draft or maybe a year, depending on how fast I'm writing. Yeah. But then even before that is stuff that other people don't usually see, the readers don't see, is like the whole brainstorming, like especially for fantasy, it's like, coming up with the world or doing research if you're basing it off of a real place and just making up, like my current project, I had to like make up some slang for the teenagers and, just like how their flying discs work. And so there's all of that. And then the editing, I do about 12 edits, through the whole thing. So I'm focusing on a different thing per edit. So one edit is like the big stuff, like plot. The second one is like the characters. Third one is like some of the smaller stuff. So it's a lot.
And are you editing that yourself or you are like sending it out for someone else and be like, take a look at this for these types of edits?
Well, for my current novel project, or which I'm just calling Project Thoughts, it doesn't have an official title yet. I'm editing it myself because I want to save money on a developmental editor. And then I'm hoping to send it to a literary agent. But for the secret project, if it's a Kickstarter, then I'll basically be publishing it myself. So I'll probably send it to a developmental editor.
I love that it's called Secret Project because it seems very like we don't I don't know anything about it. She hasn't told me a thing. But that it's like under wraps. Like I love that. I love suspense like that.
Yeah, it's definitely fantasy.
Okay.
So mythical creatures.
Okay. So people who love you are still going to love you and love what the secret project is.
Yes. Yeah. So I do write a lot of different things, but they all are in the realm of fantasy, sci-fi, and they all have similar themes of like broken characters discovering their beauty So they're struggling with, can they measure up and all of these things.
When I was reading about you and reading about the books, and I love that it's fantasy and there's dragons and there's all this stuff, but at the core of it, that there's heart and emotion and people and real stuff involved in that. And I think that's so nice to see, because when I think fantasy and even just nonfiction or fiction in general, like I never understand how y'all put this together, because I would have a book that's this thick because I wouldn't know how to drive that bus. How do you drive that bus? Like,
a lot of practice and a lot of work. So currently, my current sci-fi novel I'm working on, I'm having to cut about 30,000 words. So it can be hard knowing sometimes what is necessary and what is just fluff, doesn't need to be there. So that's also where it's very helpful to have beta readers and other people who read the same kind of stuff and ask their opinion, because they're used to it. And and I'm in a writing group, and so they're super helpful in being like, you just said this, 5 times already. Because after a while, I'm so enmeshed in the story that I don't notice some things. So you really need other people to come in and read it for you and point out things.
Can you tell everybody what a beta reader is?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I'm in author world all the time almost, so I forget. So a beta reader is just someone who reads your book in the early stages, and they just offer feedback. So they're reading it as a reader, preferably someone who's read that genre before, and they'll just give you feedback. So if you want to read books for free, let me know, and I'll give you
website. I can put that up there.
You can just email me,
Okay.
Rachel A. Greco, or rachel@rachelaGreco.com.
Okay, good. Why this genre? And here, let's hold up the books.
Oh, yes.
Because these are the 2 that are available right now. There you go. And I love, well, you see the picture on our graphics too, because I love the picture of you holding the books. So why this genre? What got you in love with this?
That is a great question, Richard. I think I've always had a wild imagination, and I grew up reading all kinds of books, but the fantasy ones really just grabbed me. And there's a quote from G.K. Chesterton, who was an author and theologian and did lots of other things. And he said, children don't read fairy tales to know that dragons are real, but they read fairy tales to know how to fight the dragons and that they can be killed. And so I've just always had a crazy imagination and love those stories that are like epic and don't take place in our world. And that, why not? Magic exists. Yeah, why not? There could be dragons. I think that's just my personality, and it shows that darkness to such a degree, but then that makes the light so much brighter. And it gives you the courage, and me the courage to keep going, keep fighting.
Did you always want to be an author?
I did. Yeah, ever since I was not obviously like a toddler, but ever since I read books and fell in love with them, I was like, oh, I want to be an author. So it's more challenging than I realized it would be, for sure. But there's nothing like the joy of a reader coming up to you and saying, oh my goodness, your book was so good. And it just
we met at the Autumn Treasures Festival last fall in Waxhaw. What do you love about doing events like that? And for other people who maybe are starting to get into writing books, like, are events like that successful?
I found them to be supremely successful. I think it helps that relationship, especially in today's world. Readers want a relationship with the author, and being genuine is so important today now with AI and technology. People want to know you're real, that this came from a real author, not just AI generated, which they weren't. The covers were made by real cover artists.
They're great covers. Here, I'll put up the graphics too, because those will be maybe easier to see on camera.
So I find them to be supremely helpful, because once you talk to people, they're more willing to buy your book, because they see that they've made a relationship with you, and they see that you're real and genuine and nice. And also, as an author, you're writing by yourself a lot, so it's very lonely. And it's so nice to actually see the people you're writing for. It's encouraged me so much and given me the strength and courage to keep going, to keep writing.
That's,
And then you know what,
no, go.
and then you know what your readers are like, and what they're
Yeah.
interested in, and
Yeah.
you can tailor it better to them.
Have you ever like changed something based? I suppose that's why you have beta readers, of like change something significant in a story because of your beta readers.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I'm trying to think of an example right now.
Well, maybe we should talk about the secret project until you. No, I'm just
You really want to know about this
Well, tell
secret
here. Let me hold
project.
up the books again. Let's go through both of them. This is the Hope of Dragons right here. I'll put up the graphic. It's you can see it clearer. What's that? What like are these? Yes, these are. This is the sequel. Here, let's do this in order. I'm a professional. I know how to do this. This is the Gift of Dragons. Tell everybody about that book.
Yes, so this book is about Adelaide, and when her sister is killed, when a neighboring country comes and attacks her village, she blames the king and prince for not protecting them. So she starts a rebellion to overthrow him, the king and prince actually. And as she's going through the country to start this rebellion, she meets the very prince she's hoping to overthrow, and he needs her help to save the legendary dragons.
Okay. Who would you say that these books are for? Like, who should be buying these books?
They're for 12 and up.
Okay.
If you like dragons, obviously, and legends and slow burn romance, but it's a subplot, then these are for you.
Okay. And is this is just the sequel? Is it like, have you ever written like a series? Is this going to be a series? To me are also, I don't understand. I feel like I'm not smart enough to write a book, because I feel like, how do you know when it's a standalone book? And then how do you like, this is going to be a series?
That's a great question. These I just knew that this is a 2-book series. So that's always going to be, it's a duology is what it's called, the fancy term for it.
I learned something today.
So it's not going to be there's not going to be a 3rd book, but I just knew when I started like brainstorming the story and started plotting it out that it was going to be a 2-book series. Like I just knew it couldn't be told in 1 book. I feel like sometimes if you want to pitch it, it's easier to get published if you're doing it the traditional way, like with a literary agent, a big publisher, if you pitch it as a 1 story. But I feel like a lot of times nowadays, the first or 2 books become so popular, they just throw in a 3rd one and they just stretch the story out. And to me, I'm like, it really doesn't need to be. Like, calm down. It can just be told in 1 or 2 books. I'm definitely more of a 1 or 2 book kind of person. And my actually current novel, not The Secret Project, sorry, but Project Thoughts, the sci-fi about thought drinking vampires, is like huge. And I had a friend actually tell me, oh, just like cut it in half and make it 2 books. And I was like, no, it's just 1 story. Like this is the climax. There's no other main climax, like I wanted to end here. So I'm just going to have to cut.
I think that's also your personality of like, I'm over this, so I don't want this.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, no, I don't know how. Have you heard of Brandon Sanderson? Yeah. I don't know how he does it. He just keeps going in the same world and adding to and adding. I'm like, no, get me out. I'm ready to start a whole new project.
Well, you just said that you had to cut like 30,000 words, right? Like, how many pages is that? How many pages is 30,000 words?
Well, I don't know, because I'm still cutting. I still have about 30,000 to go, but it's a good decent chunk. I try not to think too much about.
We won't talk about
how many pages it is.
Are you out there anywhere anytime soon where people can meet you? Do you have anything lined up?
I'm actually going to a homeschool conference in March. I forgot what it's called right now, because my friend, I'm going with some other authors, so my friend is the one who set it up. And then I'm hoping to go to the fall festival again.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yay.
I'll be there. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
What's the best way that people can connect with you?
Yeah, just going to rachelagreco.com is my website. And I have a lot of fun bookish posts I'm doing. I'm thinking of doing a quiz soon for my email newsletter subscribers about what dragon will you be, because that's a big theme in these books. And then I have an Instagram account too.
Okay, good. And these are available wherever you get books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. What do you love most about your life right now?
That's a great question. Man. I recently got let go of a job
know.
Which is sad. However, I'm actually loving that it now has given me a lot more time to focus on some of these writing projects that have been kind of in the back burner, just taken a while.
Yeah.
And I'm actually working on starting a fiction editing business, my own editing
That's
business.
smart.
So I'm excited about
Yeah.
that. Some new possibilities and opportunities.
Okay, good. Well, so all those people who are starting those books, now you know who to go to help you. Come back when anything's coming out,
Mhm.
because it's fun.
Yeah.
I'm so
will do.
happy. I'm so glad I met you. The Hope of Dragons and The Gift of Dragons are her books, available wherever. And because Rachel's so nice, everybody in the studio audience is getting a so thank you, Rachel, for giving
Thank you
everybody
so
in this
much.
giant audience a book. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having
Of
me.
course, come back
It was
anytime.
fun.
My next guest has transformed personal challenge into profound beauty. She's a poet who, when faced with a worsening chronic illness, discovered poetry as a way to explore time, loss, and hope. Her journey is a testament to resilience, and her words offer comfort in life's difficult seasons. Please welcome Autumn Williams. Good morning.
Good morning. It's so good to be here. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here and to talk about your poetry. You have a book of poetry. You have 2 books, correct?
I do, yes.
Tell
I have a
everybody
chapbook
about
and a full-length book.
what's I think it's short for something, but can you explain what a chapbook is? Because I was reading about that and I was like, I should have maybe chat GPT'd it to figure out what that was. But tell everybody what that
No
is.
worries. Yeah. A chapbook is just a short book of poetry, so significantly smaller, thinner than a regular length book.
What is I thought it was a chapter book. Like I thought it was like that's
Right.
what I thought it was. What is
That would
chapbook?
make more sense.
What does that mean?
Right. It's a really old-fashioned term. I'm off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact story, but it's from back in the day and the way they made it and old-fashioned things that it just stuck.
I was just looking up that I was making coffee this morning and I was like, why do we call it a cup of joe? Like, where did that come
Right.
from?
Mhm.
And so I looked it up and there are like 6 different ways that it maybe could have come from, dating all the way back to like, World War I. And I was like, well, never mind. This seems made up.
Right.
Anyway, tell everybody you have clouds on the ground and you
Mhm.
have waves. Tell everybody about both of those.
Sure. So Waves is my chapbook. It's the short one. And it's just it's an ebook, and if people sign up for my newsletter, they get it free. And
Nice.
it's ocean poetry. And then Clouds on the Ground, I have it, is my first full-length book. So this is for sale on Amazon. It's inspired by my experience with chronic illness. But when I started writing it, I was putting the poems together in order. And I realized there was a basis of a story there that was more universal than my own. So I wrote new poems to fill it in and change it. So it's a universal sort of book. So people can read it and put themselves into the poems and see themselves in it, hopefully, or find comfort and hope. But yeah, there's a lot of nature poetry, and I write about time and dreaming and loss and love and things like that. So
and it's available on Amazon, like you said.
It is.
Before we get into, I have so many questions for you, but I want to talk about what chronic illness you have and what it is and how that came about.
Yeah, so I have an illness called myalgic encephalomyelitis, and I've had it for nearly 11 years now.
Wow.
There's no cure for it. Some people get better. If you've had it for more than 5 years, you have a 5% chance of getting better. So I am very determined to get better. I've been trying many treatments and things to get better. I've been worse in the past. I'm better than I was. But so it can be triggered by different things, usually a virus. And then you get over it, but then you're still sick. So have you heard, you must have heard of long COVID and things like that.
Yeah.
If people have it for too long, they'll label it my illness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's just, it's an illness that has been around for a long time, but forever, in my opinion, but it's just not very well known. Like a lot of chronic illnesses aren't very well known. But it makes me weaker and tired. And I can't stand up for very long. There's brain fog and stuff like that. But so when I was, I had it mild for years, and I was able to function sort of normally. Like I lost 50% of my normal function, but I was still able to live a normal life mostly. And then I became bedbound. And so after a year of being bedbound, that's when I started writing poetry just as a coping mechanism.
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I was in my late 20s.
That's so young, right? I mean, it's never a good age to be diagnosed with anything, but like, how did you, and maybe writing was part of this to help you process all of that, but how do you go from having nothing wrong to all of a sudden bedbound? How does that work in your brain?
Right. Well, I mean, I was sick before I became bedbound. I just was still able to, walk and things like that.
Yeah.
It was not good. It was not
Mhm.
good when I became bedbound. It happened somewhat suddenly, and I had just thought it was a crash. So with the illness, the main symptom is it's called post-exertional malaise. So if you do too much, you get sicker, and you really can't do much at all. So it can be temporary, or it can be long lasting or permanent.
Mm.
But yeah, when I became bedbound, it was bad. I just felt very useless. I didn't really see the point to me because I just required care, and instead of being able to be useful and helpful to other people. And so it was a struggle within myself because I was able to see value in other people in hard times. But it's always so much harder to look inward at yourself and give yourself that value.
Yeah.
So it was really just a process of accepting how valuable humans are just because they exist. Like, you literally don't have to do anything to have value. You're just a human. And, I felt that for other people, but to feel it in my heart for myself, that was hard. But I came to that, with therapy and things like that. But then I started writing poetry after.
Good. The writing is such, I talk about it all the time on this show. I've had many authors on this show talking about the health benefits and what it does for you, even if it's not for public consumption, right? Like, even if your goal is not to write a book to put out there for sale, just writing words down for yourself helps you heal.
Absolutely does. And that is scientifically proven, even, just like, oh, I'm struggling with this thing, write it out, journal it out.
Yeah. How are you feeling like now, today?
Oh, horrible.
Really?
I always feel horrible, but I'm in a
Oh.
good mood. Like, I could be worse than I am right now. Certainly there's adrenaline pumping through my body, which helps. But with what I have, it feels like the flu all the time.
All the
So it's
time,
like
every day.
all the time, constant. Yeah. And you wake up and you don't feel like you slept. It's bad. It's really bad. So I feel sick right now, but
Oh my gosh.
you kind of get used to it. Like, you're used to it and you're fine and you're good. And then every now and then it creeps up and you're just like, I can't take it anymore. And then you're like, okay. And you go back to your coping
Wow.
mechanisms.
What do you say to people going through anything like that, where like there is no, for lack of a better word, like getting better, right? Like that this is your new normal, this is your life now. What do you say to people who are maybe in the early stages of something like that?
Definitely in early stages, I am a huge proponent of resting immediately and ignoring our culture of push through it, because that is what
Yeah.
makes you worse. And I didn't know it at the time. That's how I got sicker, because the old advice is, graded exercise therapy, which has since been disproven, and they don't recommend that anymore. But if you do too much when you're sick and you're trying to recover, you can make yourself permanently damaged. So for people at the beginning stages of chronic illness, I'm like, you need to rest. You need to take months off if you can. And if you can't, you need to just be doing the barest minimum of what you can. But, for people who there is no big hope for healing, I say hold on to that hope, but also learn to find joy within your life as it is, because there is. And certainly like things like poetry or reading or writing poetry or whatever it is that people love doing can be helpful. Finding things to do that you can do, because I just lost things that I was able to do. So poetry was like, oh my goodness, this is the thing I can do laying down. Yeah, it was. It's very helpful to feel that joy, to feel that usefulness. Holding on to hope. That's my main advice.
I know you were writing for a while. What made you decide to put a collection together to put into a book to put out there for the public?
Yeah, I really like helping people. That's just part of who I've always been. And so becoming bedbound was really hard, because then I required help. And I'm not the type of person who is that way. I'm like, no, I help other people. So putting it together, I was like, this is a way that I can help other people. This is a way for people to feel seen and heard, and I write my poetry to be accessible. So it's not super complicated. And I feel like for people with a chronic illness, reading can be difficult with brain fog and feeling sick. So my hope was that it's easy to read, so it's not a stress. It's not making someone feel worse. But just putting it out there to help others, it helped me feel very much more fulfilled.
Oh, well, who would you say the book is for?
So I have a marketing coach, and you have to you have to find your audience, right? And I want to say everyone, right?
Yeah.
But not everyone.
That's a good answer. That yes.
I did try to make it for anyone who enjoys poetry would enjoy it, hopefully. There's no specific, it's only for people with chronic illness, or if it's only for people who've gone through loss. I feel like if you enjoy poetry, everyone's had hard things in their life. No one gets through life unscathed. So poetry lovers,
what have you
hopefully.
Yeah, it's the beautiful book. Go look them up on Amazon, or go sign up for the newsletter and get one for free. Yes, of course. Thank you for putting it out there, because was there nerves putting it out there for people to read?
Terror.
Yeah.
It was so scary. It was so scary because I didn't know if people were going to like my poetry. There's poetry like it, but not much. It's its own thing. I have my own style. And I didn't know what the response was going to be. But luckily, good response.
Yeah, of course.
So,
of course.
Yeah, nerves, fear, definitely.
Are you working? I bet. And then once it's out there, then it's like, well, I have no control. So here we go. Right? Yeah. Are you working on anything else right now?
I am. Yeah. Yes. I filled up so many notebooks full of poetry. So I've got more books coming for sure.
Okay, good. I hope you come back when any of them come out, because I'd love to talk to you about them. Yeah. What do you love most about your life right now?
So I am a mom of 6 kids. My husband and I have 6 children, and my family, they're my greatest joy. My son is about to turn 18 in 2 days, and he's my oldest, and I'm just, the time with them has gone by so fast. I'm like, you can't grow up already. What's happening here?
18. Is he going to college?
Yeah, he's planning on serving a mission for our church first, and then he's going to go to college right after.
Wow, it sounds like you've probably raised some really good kids too.
They impress me, and they're so kind and loving. So I'm very happy with, their good hearts.
As a kid who grew up with very sick parents, I think there's something there's something special about those kids, because they learn very early compassion, empathy, and struggle, and that, you know, like so they end up being really good kids. I think I am anyway, and I'm sure your kids
Absolutely.
are too. Yes, yeah. What's the best way that people can connect with you and support you and follow you?
If you want to sign up for my newsletter, it's at freechatbook.com. Easy to remember, hopefully.
Yes.
And that'll get my free chatbook waves and just news and updates and some giveaways and things. So it's
Fun.
it's
Okay,
fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Autumn. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You have a great show, and it's an honor to
Well,
be.
come back anytime. You can come back tomorrow if you want.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll be back tomorrow with Autumn, but we'll take a break and we'll be back after this with something else.